Hey, y'all, welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, this is Joe and Jay Outspoken. As the recording of this, it's Tuesday, June 6th. I'm Jay, and today we're going to be covering a great topic as always. So, Joe, what's on the agenda for today?
Today's topic is gun control and the 2A.
Ah,
It's a great
that's
topic.
going to be a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, stay away from my guns. All right, welcome back, everybody. So, yeah, we're going over the topic of 2A today. I know it's going to be a little, happiness for some folks and maybe not so happiness for some other folks, but we really feel like it's something that needs to be covered here. And so, just really quick, the Second Amendment is defined as a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So, what do you think, Joe? What are we going to get into on this topic here?
So, gun control has been a hot topic for the Biden administration in controlling what the American people have. And that in itself is kind of dangerous because, like we were talking about before, it takes just one, right? So if we allow them to adjust, to eradicate, to amend the Second Amendment, that just opens up a doorway for them to amend the First Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, all other amendments, right? It's just
Right.
opening the door to start adjusting things to best fit what they want for this great country of ours. So the question is, what or who does additional laws or restrictions actually impact? Does it impact law-abiding citizens, or does it impact criminals?
Yeah, definitely criminals, right?
Absolutely, because I think
I mean,
no matter
cocaine's
what,
illegal, so
right? But it's everywhere. But so that's the big question now. Like, for example, when you have a drunk driver and he unfortunately crashes and kills somebody, do we blame that car for that accident? Do we
well, if
blame
it's
the
Ford, we're going to blame them now. So,
oh yeah, Ford, yeah. Or is it alcohol that we're blaming? Right? No, we blame that individual, right, who was
all right,
behind that wheel.
or it could have
Same
been Bud
thing.
Light too. So,
Well, yeah. In that case, we got more problems than just 2A. Uh, but
driving a Ford and drinking Bud Light, that's it. You're done.
you're done. You're out of here, buddy. But so that's the big thing that you want to categorize one element, one mechanism, but you want to use a totally different um, thought process on a different mechanism, right?
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's the same thing, right? Guns weren't created. Well, guns now we are not here because we use them to kill people. That's not the purpose of them. We have avid hunters, collectors,
Target
hunt,
shooters.
right? Target shooters, competition shooters. We have just a variety of self defense, right? We have so many reasons to have guns nowadays. Now, do I think that there should be some level of control? I do, but not from the government. I think that the control should be imposed on the gun owner, right? Like better storage of your weapon. So, not if you do get burglarized, your guns aren't easy access. If you do have minor children who might have mental health issues, your guns aren't easily accessible, right? Now, if
Right.
we have a gun owner who has a negligent discharge or mishandles a weapon, what do we do now? Should they possess a gun? I don't think so, and I think that maybe for a short time they get suspended until they take some classes and learn how to better manipulate a weapon, just like we do with a car. What happens when you get so many tickets, or what happens when you commit so many violations? You get your license suspended, right? Your
Right.
privilege gets taken away, right? Until you learn to be a better driver and be more
Right.
responsible. I feel those controls should be in place, but again, not by the government. They should be imposed by the individuals, right? By
Yeah,
the people that are
absolutely.
selling the weapons and things like that. Those I'm all for. But to criminalize law-abiding citizens for possessing weapons, that's ridiculous. I mean, tell me, what nation does that remind you of? Just a little pop quiz here, Jay. What
Yeah.
nation does that remind you of?
Well, that happened in Europe at one time. We called it Germany when they walked into Austria.
Nazi Germany.
Yeah, Nazi Germany. Yeah, and the thing is that that started off uh, innocent as heck, kind of like it is here now, right? So you had a populace that was growing, and people had weaponry, and people were getting shot accidentally, and this and that. So
I like
the
that
government
weaponry.
and or the people cried out and said, "Hey, we need to not have so many people getting hurt in the public, right? So let's do a gun registry and register all the guns so we know where they're at, so we know who has them. Um, Stop crime, stop. I don't know how they thought a registry was going to help from people accidentally shooting themselves or somebody else, but people agreed to it and they did it. And a little bit of time goes by, and the government says, "Well, the gun registry didn't really work. We're still having the same amount of crime, same amount of accidental or
Hmm.
purposeful shootings." And they said, "So we're going to come get them from you because you guys are too stupid to know how to, run your own life and understand them." So they did. And then shortly after that, um, the Nazi Party walked into Austria and took over everything, And so these kind of things in history, and this is I mean, we have Argentina as a recent thing. As soon as that government and that country was doing great, they had great oil reserves and made great money and everything, and everybody was prosperous. And then they say, well, we don't want to work so hard anymore, and we want to give government control. So what are we going to do? um, we're going to go socialist. We think that's the way to go because it's going to make everybody's lives easier. Well, part of socialism is getting rid of your guns. And so the last time I saw things on the news from them, you had people, I remember seeing one clip of a lady that she was cooking something in the street because they're homeless. They don't have any money anymore. And they're cooking, she's cooking something for her kids. And what is it? It's a rat that she's cooking just to feed her kids, and this could have been avoided if they would have been able to protect themselves from a tyrannical government. So Thomas Jefferson said the strongest reason for the people to retain their rights to keep and bear arms is a last resort to protect themselves against tyranny in the government. So the thing is that our Second Amendment was not meant for hunting. It wasn't really meant for self-defense like we consider it just in our home, somebody breaking in. It's a great thing for that. But they knew based on where they had been before, every time, every time that people were taken over, it's because they had less weaponry than the government. And we have this, our guy in the big Oval Office right now that says, well, you can't fight our government. If our government was ever to become tyrannical, which they kind of are right now,
They are.
so we wouldn't be able to fight them because you'd have to buy F-16s and tanks and everything like that. Well, what's really funny about that is a little country at the time that wasn't even the full United States of America yet, um, fended off the most powerful country in the world with muskets and pitchforks. So listen, people that have a desire to protect their family and their land, their well-being in general, are going to fight harder than people that are told to come and take over that land, right? I mean, we went into places like Vietnam. Those folks, that was their land and they cared about their country and they were going to
Yeah.
fight for it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We were the strangers there. We went into Korea, same thing. We just pulled out of Afghanistan, the complete debacle doing that. And how long, Joe, were we at war with, in that war? I shouldn't even say at war with, we were involved in that whole
For a
nonsense
year.
over there. Yeah.
Yeah, it started with Operation
And,
Desert Storm.
yeah, yeah.
Well,
And so, anyhow, it was just a whole mess, and us pulling out of there, and the you know fact that those people didn't want us there, and they fought for their land and for
yeah.
their homes and for their families.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And just going back, it's kind of funny and it's kind of weird. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but these are facts. When you said about Argentina and going socialist, do you know do you know where a lot of these Germans that fled Hitler's regime when it was collapsing at the end of World War II. You know where they fled to?
Oh yeah, they went to South America.
Yep, Argentina, Brazil,
Yeah,
they went down
yeah,
there, and that's funny that that's happening now. But just real quick, I know that with everything that's been going on in our nation with school shootings, mall shootings, mass shootings everywhere, this is a very touchy subject, and
right,
the last thing we wanted anyone to think is that we're all for just everybody get guns, everybody go crazy and do
right.
what you
We're not
want.
insensitive to the subject at
Yeah,
all.
and but you have to understand, and this is the biggest thing that I want everyone to understand, that guns themselves are not the problem.
Right,
Guns alone do not kill anyone. Um, it's the person behind the gun, right? And one of
right,
the things that our great nation is suffering of, and this is all happened during the whole lockdowns for the COVID, is that we have such a high increase in mental health issues. And with that being said, we have probably one of the lowest funded mental health um, assistance for our citizens. It's just
that's right. Yeah,
horrible, right? And we're missing the point. We're trying to impact a mechanism that is an inanimate object when it's sitting alone, like a
right,
car is, like a knife is, and now like a gun is. It's not until you add those elements that it becomes a dangerous weapon. So what the whole purpose of this funcast is that we want people to understand that it's not about um, screaming advocacy for crazy everyone have a gun, but it's for people to understand that, hey, we don't feel it's the gun. It's not the gun. We don't blame,
right,
again, we don't blame the car for a drunk driver. We blame the drunk driver. We don't, we shouldn't be blaming the gun for a mental health person or just a criminal that has a
right.
gun. You
In
know,
general, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
You can't blame inanimate objects for, you know, creating these issues. There's always a hand in it, right, behind it.
absolutely.
And you know, one of our last episodes, uh, we were talking about. We got some emails on it. We were talking about hoodies and and these folks that were up in Portland, Oregon, and Washington, Seattle, Washington, that were breaking into places. And this was all different kinds of places all over the country, right?
Summer of
The
love.
summer of love.
Summer
Yeah,
of
I
love.
mean, it was my favorite time.
Yeah.
You know, I can't wait to spend uh, another summer in Seattle, Washington. Yeah, I'm
Man.
looking forward to it. But yeah, so there was this little common denominator that I had brought up, you know, and folks thought I was going to go in a different direction with it. And what was a common denominator of people that were running out of those buildings, you know, with their, you know, not eggs in a loaf of bread, but with their Nike
Gucci.
shoes and their Gucci purses and stuff like that. What was a common denominator? They all had hoodies on. Okay. All of them. They all had hoodies on.
Ban hoodies. Ban
So should we,
hoodies.
yeah, let's ban hoodies because obviously that's the problem. I mean, the people going in there all have hoodies on, right? If we ban hoodies, that's what.
I know
So
you're being
that's
I
the
know you're
problem.
being sarcastic,
Oh
but
yeah,
it sounds, honestly, because that's the same mentality they're using for guns, it just sounds stupid.
it sounds stupid.
Yeah.
It does. It sounds stupid me even saying it, but that's the reasoning that people get behind this. So it's not the hoodie, right? It's the person inside that hoodie that is has the mental capacity to do whatever they're going to do while they're inside that hoodie. That's stealing, looting, setting fire, you know, damaging, whatever, spray painting walls, whatever they're going to do. Okay. So one of the things I wanted to read to you guys. So in 2020, it was estimated, okay, and this is because of we do have so we don't have a gun registry in the United States, but people fill out a form when you go to the gun store or wherever you purchase it from that tells the government that another gun was purchased because they go through you go through a check, right, a background check. So the total number of overall firearms in civilian possession, and this is ones that have been purchased by law abiding citizens, is 433 million guns. Actually, 433.9 million. So almost 434 million guns. So let me tell you,
Wow.
if law abiding citizens were the problem, with all these guns, you would know about it. Um,
Definitely.
right?
Yeah.
So now you think about that, break that down. That's what's the populace of the United States? That's more than a gun per person, right? So when you start thinking about it, that's
America.
America. People have more than one gun, right? Some people have a lot more than one gun. So, and then with every gun, so for those of you that are not big gun fans, it's fine. That is your right in this country. You have a
Absolutely.
right to own, and you have a right to never touch one if you don't want to. But most people have heard of a 9mm gun. It's usually a handgun. You can get one rifle, in a rifle version, but we'll take the most popular, which would be a handgun. Those handguns have typically like a 15-round magazine, just depends on the maker and what style you get. But 15-round magazine, that same gun in one of the communist states like California will be probably a 10-round gun or 10-round magazine. I'm sorry. And then, there's some states you can't even have it at all. So, Joe, if you have a 9mm with a 15-round magazine, let's say you have two 15-round magazines, that for those of you that are not math wizards, that would be 30 rounds. And would you have just 30 rounds for your gun?
Uh, oh no! I mean, come on. Is that a serious question? Are you asking?
Yeah, that's a serious question.
No, I would. Those are what I have in those two magazines, but I probably have
Yeah,
like 20 more magazines that are loaded, plus some boxes for
right,
for
right.
spare.
So you're telling me that the looters would probably have more than one hoodie also, right? So, okay. So so for those 433.9 million guns, there's going to be a ton of ammo. Again, I'm broken record on this. If law-abiding citizens were the problem, we would already know about it. So we can make all of those guns illegal and have all of the law-abiding citizens turn those in, right? And the problem is that now you have opened yourself up to um, criminals knowing that everybody's defenseless. Nobody has anything to defend themselves with, and now it's going to cause a bigger problem. So, like Joe said earlier, we're not trying to dismiss that we don't have problems with schools and things like that. And there's been some horrific things that have happened at schools. I mean, the Las Vegas shooting, a lot of these things like that. It's really, it's disheartening that there's individuals that have that mental capacity to even contemplate doing something that terrible. Um, but the thing is that if you go down to a state building, say you go to the courthouse, if you have jury duty, you walk down to the courthouse. Do they just let you walk in willy nilly, no problem? No, there's
Good
usually
luck.
there's usually metal detectors. There's armed, whether it's the court sheriffs are there or they have armed. What do they call it? Security or what have you that they pay. There's somebody there with a gun. There's a metal detector for you to go through. So, and why do we do that for our courthouses? I mean, those are all adults. It's not like there's kids in there or anything like that for the most part. There might be a couple kids going in there with their parents for family law or something like that, but for the most part, it's adults. So why is it that our children, we leave them so unprotected? And I know, there's been controversy over 2A advocates saying, well, why don't teachers just get guns, get training and everything? And I get both sides of it. I agree. I think it'd be awesome if teachers were able to be armed in the school to protect their kids. However, I said it before, it is 100% their right to not want to touch a gun, to not carry one or
Absolutely.
anything else. That's fine. We're not against you being scared or not liking, firearms. That's
Which
you're
I even
100% right.
I even applaud that, because if you're not comfortable owning one or even holding one, then you have no business having it. So
Right.
for making that decision, I applaud you for just even making that decision. So yeah, it's a
Yeah.
good
It's the
point.
same
Yeah,
thing as like, there's a ton of people that ride motorcycles out there, right?
yeah,
And there's a lot of folks that say, well, I don't ever want to get on a motorcycle. It's scary to me. And that's fine. I mean, it's not for everyone. Firearms are not for everyone. I would love to see more, training and kids be taught by their parents when early on, and if they decide later on not to deal with it, that's fine. But with our schools, going back to that, we don't have any protection there. We have a lot of homeless veterans that are out there that it would be extremely easy. I mean, anytime, this is kind of a little bit of a sidebar here, but I hear this all the time in cities and counties and state and federal government. Well, we don't have the funding and we don't have the money to do that. The fact that we have spent so much money and sent so much money around the world to these other governments to protect their borders, to fight wars and do all this stuff, it is complete
Give them
nonsense
guns.
and utter bull. Yeah, I mean, we're giving other countries guns, but we won't let our own citizens defend themselves. It's the hypocrisy is beyond belief. But I digress. Going back, so with the schools, if we could get some of our veterans or off-duty police officers that want to make some extra money or what have you, there would be no reason that we could not have every single school with somebody that was armed at the front gates. And, again, that whole argument comes up. Well, we don't want it to be a prison and everything. Okay, let me give you an example. There's two schools, two different cities, right? Two opposing cities. The football teams play each other, and the parents on this side, are yelling at each other and everything. Okay, so the schools are the same basic parents. They all go to the same churches or PTA meetings or whatever you want to say. These two schools, one decides to have their school armed up, and they have a off-duty police officer, or they have a veteran, or combination, or whatever, somebody that's trained, that knows what they're doing. And they post it up and say, hey, listen, we're going to protect our kids with extreme prejudice. And then the other school says, nope, this is a gun-free zone. We're going to put signs up. Nobody gets to bring guns on our campus. Let me ask you, if you are somebody that is going to do something terrible and think about going into a school like that, which school would you target first? I think everybody knows the answer.
You're going to target the one you could advance more and where you could get probably more body counts, right?
Yeah,
the one that's not protected,
So you remember when years ago when they had that thing called the club that you put on your car steering wheel?
Oh yeah, that's horrible.
One thing was a
carry around
junk big piece of metal that went between your steering wheel.
Yeah.
So the whole thing with that was a deterrent. If you had two cars sitting side by side, they were the exact same car. Honda Civic was like the most stolen car, I think, at that time.
They were easy to steal.
Probably
not
still.
That I know. Not that I know.
But. And both of them sitting side by side. One had a club, one didn't. And the thief's going to steal a car. Which one are they going to steal? They're going to steal the one that has the least resistance, right? It's the same concept. So
it's a deterrent. It's a deterrent. So like
absolutely.
what's that saying? It's better to have and not need than need and not have.
Right.
So
right.
that's kind of important, and I agree with you 100%. But let me ask you this. So will controlling law-abiding citizens' ownership of guns impact violence?
No, absolutely not.
No, because here's the thing. Gun violence in the streets in America. No, it won't. Because let me tell you why. Because it's not the law-abiding citizens who are committing the crimes. It's the criminals or those that have mental health issues that are committing the crimes. Right. So why? So my question is, why are you making it more difficult for law-abiding citizens to have gun ownership, to protect themselves, their family, their loved ones, for to have guns to have fun with, to go out, hit target practice, whatever the case is? It should be each individual's right to possess, right? Why do you control that? The point is, I think we have sufficient gun control. The problem is we don't have sufficient police. We don't have sufficient resources to impact that the other side, which is the criminal aspect of it, or even the mental health aspect of it. That's the target that we should go after, not the law-abiding citizens, not the ones that follow the law, that says, hey, I have to register this weapon, I have to go take this class, right? I have to do whatever it is that you have to do to have that ownership. It's a responsibility, just like it is a car. When you get a car and you go get your license, you have responsibilities, right? You have to learn the laws of the state. You have to maintain that vehicle. So, you break the law, you break it enough, you get your license suspended, you get points taken off, right? Same
Right.
thing with gun ownership. We have all the tools in place, everything's there, but the problem is, again, not the law-abiding citizens, it's the criminals, right? They break into a home, and there's guns, and they take them. They break into a pawn shop, they take the guns there because they're not well protected. Whatever the case is, or we have an administration that gives them away, like in the Fast and Furious program, right? They just give rifles and guns away to drug cartels.
Sure,
So
didn't I suffer the pressure?
yes, Mr. President.
Thanks, Mr. President.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but so those are the problems. That's the core issue here. It's not that the guns are the problem. The gun is absolutely not the problem. And by having that agenda, by the Biden administration pushing that agenda that the guns are bad, these are bad. It's kind of like that the episode we had about whiteness in America. You keep sending that message out to the American people, it's going to create fear, right? And with that fear turns
Right.
into what? Hate, right? And you're sending messages of hate. So people now, of course, are going to start hating guns. They're going to say they're causing too much problems. That people don't know how to handle them. They're killing innocent lives. And you're absolutely correct. They are killing innocent lives, but it's not because
Right.
the gun itself is dangerous, right? It's the person behind the gun. If you park your car in a driveway, who is it going to hit? Absolutely nobody,
Nobody.
right? If you put your knife in the sleeve, right, when you're done using it, who's it going to stab? Absolutely nobody,
Nobody.
right? So if you leave a gun in your safe locked up, right, who's it going to kill? Absolutely nobody.
Nobody.
It's a mechanism, right? So in order for that mechanism to work, it needs to have an extension. That extension is us, the human factor, right? But when that human factor is damaged, like the criminals or the mental health people that are suffering, then that mechanism becomes dangerous. Then it is used in illegal ways, right? And do you notice something that's kind of common when you have these mass shootings is they all have an agenda. They've all
Oh,
planned this
yeah.
out. They've all thought it out. There's
Absolutely.
a purpose behind what they're doing. Well, at least a purpose to them of why they're doing this, right? A law-abiding citizen is not going to sit there and thinking, what am I going to do with this gun today? Who or what can I use it on? No, they're not doing that. They're going to take it out of their locker. They're going to clean it. They're going to look at it. They're going to maybe add a new sight on it, and then they're going to put it back. Right? That's it. That's what we do.
Take it down and get it sighted in.
Right, exactly,
Yeah.
right. Or go out to the range and throw a couple rounds down range, and
Right.
work on your accuracy. But
Yeah.
but we're sending the wrong message. So recently, Governor Whitmore out of Michigan is passing the red flag law. So those of you not familiar with red flag laws, it's I get the concept behind it. It's a good concept, but here's the problem: with every law that's not thought through properly, you have these loopholes or these issues that happen. So the
Right.
red law flag is a law that they say it's not meant to take gun ownership away, but to restrict guns to people who are in crisis or have some mental health issues or have anger issues, whatever the case is. But here's the thing: it could be a partner, a girlfriend, an ex-girlfriend, an ex-wife, a wife. It could be anybody that calls and says, "Hey, Jay's a little off hinge today. He hasn't been himself. I've heard him
That's
say
all the
about
time, buddy.
yeah,
All the
I've
time.
heard him say something about the left, and I don't know what's going on with him." So guess what's going to happen? Like, local law enforcement is going to go down there and they're going to take all his weapons, right, on an emergency court order, because now he's a threat to himself and to others. So
Right.
the loophole in that, or the issue in that, is if I'm mad at somebody, if let's say I don't like my neighbor, right, because he's waving that Biden flag, right, and I know the guy has a gun, which, come on guys, that's a fantasy. If he has a Biden flag, he doesn't have a gun, right? It's a joke. So anyway, so so anyway, I don't like
He's
his
got a he's got a fridge full of Bud Light too. So just
he's
saying.
got a he's got a Biden flag up there, and I know he has a gun. So I call him like, "Hey man, my neighbor, I had my God bless America flag and my support Trump 2024 flag, and he came and he tore it off, and he said, that guy is a criminal and he needs to pay and blah blah blah. He's off his rocker and he has a gun, and I really am scared for myself. What do you think is going to happen? He's going to go over there and take this gun, right? Because
Yeah.
now he's become a threat. So that's dangerous. That's
It
dangerous.
is.
That's just another form of control, and that's not going to go good. The
Right.
Michiganders need to start going out there and call their local representative and say, hey, this is not what we need. We
Yeah.
need, what we need is better mental health care is what we need. We don't
Yeah.
need more
Absolutely.
laws that restrict law-abiding citizens. That's not the target group, but
Right.
but again, these are things that we have to stand up for, and these are things that we have to fight for. So just like anyone would for anything, right?
Yeah.
Roe versus Wade, people on both sides are fighting for what they believe in, and I
Right.
think we should do the same, but we should do it in a way that is more intelligent than just screaming and yelling. That it is funny, to hear these representatives in Congress describe these this
The AR-50
military style assault weapon that
that
has
shoots thousands of rounds out
that
of
shoots
one clip.
that shoots 50 out of this clip that's hanging on. It looks like a banana, then it kills, and it shoots. Well, you just hold a button and it fires like crazy. I'm like,
Yeah.
what are you talking about?
What did you just say?
What
I don't have
you
any clue.
you sound like
Well,
President Biden on a
okay.
speech.
True
Jeez.
internet coverage of president.
I apologize, Mr. President. You're
Yeah, sorry,
absolutely
Mr.
correct.
President.
But
So
these are things that I'm talking about, Jay.
yeah, yeah. And lawmakers, man, what's really disturbing is a lot of times lawmakers and people that are pushing laws are they're based off emotional decisions, right? It's not factual. It's not they'll bring up some numbers and things, but they won't look at it from a rationale point of view, and it's sad because as time, as in this day and age, there's so many things that are looked at it on an emotional level and not on a rational level. That's kind of crazy. One of the things I know, if anybody that's is into firearms and you've watched like YouTube videos or anything like that, and you've seen those dummies that are at the gun range, and they're doing stuff and they're like looking down the barrel and everything, and they're super cringe videos for most of us because we're like, oh my gosh, this person has no trigger discipline and all these kind of things. And so what I want, like, for people that are watching right now that possibly are not big fans of guns, or maybe you're thinking about getting into it but you've never handled one or whatever, I highly encourage you to go get some good training, professional training. One of the most, like, seriously, the most important thing about learning about a gun is safety. It's the most important thing,
Absolutely. Yeah.
because it is one of those things that it's easy, if accidents don't happen that often, right? There's 433.9 million guns. If there was that many accidents, we'd hear about it every single day. And there are enough responsible gun owners out there that you're not going to have so many issues. However, people get excited and say, you know what, I'm going to go buy one and I'm going to go do this and this and that. And they don't read instructions. There's an instruction with every book, every single firearm that you purchase at a gun store anywhere in the country. Doesn't matter if it's California or Texas, right? Free, non-free state. They all come with locks and all these kind of things. So, the industry has done all it can to keep people protected. Now, here's the thing. We were talking earlier about, like getting a car and getting a license versus having a gun. This is one of the things that gets brought up all the time. Well, you have to have a license and go through all this training and everything to have a car, and people don't have to have all that to have a gun. Well, there's a big difference, because a car is a privilege. Having a firearm is part of our Second Amendment, and it is a right for every citizen to have one.
Absolutely.
So the thing is things have changed over the years. And anytime anybody argues the point that, that was for muskets and stuff back then. Well, the First Amendment, then free speech, has to do with quill and pen, has nothing to do with the internet. So should all the internet be stifled? And you know what? That's kind of what they're
Jay. That's a good point.
That's kind of what they're trying to do with the Second and the First and everything else, right? So, like Joe said, mental health is probably one of our biggest problems. Somebody might say, like, our border crisis is a nightmare. Fentanyl coming across, the possibility of the amount of children that are being trafficked, and
it's a new word, ladies and gentlemen, trafficked.
trafficked, human trafficking in general for, you know, people that are coming across the border. It's really a horrible thing to think about. But mental health, and another huge thing for me that I think has caused, you know, a lot of this stuff, is deteriorating family values and the actual elimination of the actual nuclear family system. It's really created a, you know, a nightmare scenario for all of our inner cities, and it's growing. It's a growing problem throughout the country. So, you know, you see,
what's the word I'm looking for? It
yeah, so you made fun of me.
well, then that's what happened.
Getting you back, man.
Yeah,
It's a
it creates
Pressure.
thanks, Mr. President.
that's what I'm sounding like. It it creates an instability in the community when you start losing those core values.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
with that comes a lot of. So I think the biggest thing is that we have to put that responsibility back in not just the family, but in gun owners. Gun owners need to be responsible about showing their children how to manipulate weapons, how to safely manipulate weapons, and how to
100%, man.
handle them. Especially if you're a gun owner and you have guns in your home, you want my father taught me. He had an M1, and he taught me on that rifle. But
Ooh, M1 Grand.
yeah, but you know, one of the things is
Ooh,
because of the training my dad gave me, I wouldn't go near that thing if he wasn't around. I wouldn't even touch it. You know,
that's right.
and I
That's
was
right.
just like, I know better than to touch that thing. You know, but and I'm kind of crazy, so you know, I always pushed the boundaries with my dad, but that's one thing I never pushed the boundaries
Yeah.
on was that, and I think
Yeah.
as responsible citizens, and I think we've done great as far as gun owners out there. They've done a great job in maintaining that safety bracket, and I think we just need to keep doing that. But I think we need to just start showing that we are responsible gun owners, and that you can't, as a government, you can't take away our constitutional right. You know,
Right.
the whole purpose of the Constitution and the amendments was for the citizens. It wasn't for the government. It was for us, right?
Right.
And these are our rights. And so a government can't come in and take that, because if they do, what type of government does that become, Jay?
Tyrannical.
Right, and that's what the Second Amendment protects us from a tyrannical government. So we have to think about all these things. It's very important. And again, if I need you guys to take anything away from this, is that guns are not the problem, and we have to start understanding that. And I think that even those that don't own guns, you have to see how important that is to understand, because we can't blame a car for a drunk driver. You can't blame a gun for mass shooters, because let me tell you, if someone has a plan to kill people, um, they'll just get a bunch of fertilizer, throw it in a U-Haul truck, and blow it up. Because if they
Right.
can't have access to a gun, they're gonna get access to something else. You know,
Fertilizer should be illegal now, then.
right? But what my point is, so what happens if we take all the guns away and then we're left with knives? So someone that has mental health issues or who wants to commit a crime as bad as a mass shooting, what do you think he's gonna do with a knife? He's gonna go around
Yeah.
stabbing people. So the point is, none of these mechanisms are the issue. None of them. It's the human factor behind it, and that's where we need to start impacting, is that human factor. So we should start with putting people in prison, like Fauci, for locking up Americans for so long, and creating this mental health crisis that we are now dealing with. And of course, the increase in these shootings, we could directly blame the mental health issues that's happening now, because just look at them. Just look at the aftermath of these shooters and their agendas, and whatever is released by the FBI or the ATF. But just look at the history behind them. They've already, in their social media, have been planning this, have been talking about this,
Right.
and so, you know, we have to do better. We have to do
And a
better.
lot of them are on watch list, which is really crazy. One of the things I wanted to quote was from, and I'm probably going to pronounce his name incorrectly, but Japanese Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto. And he said, "You cannot invade the mainland United States. There would be a rifle behind every blade of grass." It's one of the things that's kept our country
He's not
so
wrong.
safe. from, so again, foreign and domestic. Domestic means here, our own tyrannical government, and foreign. There's no other country. They not only have to fight our military, which is one of the most powerful militaries in the world, but if they came into our country, you think if somebody invaded on the coast as liberal as California is, that Los Angelinos, the people that are over there, would not defend Los Angeles to the death? I mean, it would be insane.
Especially the Raiders fans. I know they're in Vegas now, but the Raider fans will go crazy over there.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, because again, you're going to be coming towards those people's families, and they have a lot of family over there, and they're going to protect them to no end, right? With extreme prejudice, like I said.
Damn.
So, yeah, Joe mentioned something a little earlier about, his father raising him up. So my dad, when I was a kid, he had started me off on a pellet rifle, a BB gun. And I got smacked in the head a couple times. That's probably what's wrong with me nowadays. But he basically would tell me to, make sure that the barrel was pointed down at all times and keep your finger off the trigger. And he was very cautious with me on that, and made sure that I was very respectful of the firearm and of everybody and aware of my surroundings. That was a huge thing. He showed me how to set up the, cans, because that's what we were shooting at the time, and how to lay the rifle down properly so it wasn't pointed in any direction towards people and all this. I mean, he was very this is a pellet gun, right? Yeah. Once I kind of graduated from that and got a little older, he would allow me to fire his 22 rifle, and he had the same expectations. And my mom's dad, my grandfather on my mom's side, he same thing. I mean, we would go out in the desert and we'd go shooting. And so, I learned early on respect for firearms, and that they're not scary. They're just, it's like anything else, a lawnmower. Okay. You mow your lawn. Joe and I both knew somebody years and years ago that his dad had like a lawn care service, and they actually lifted the lawnmower up because there was a problem or something, and that thing spun and it chopped 2 of his fingers off. Right. So there's all kinds of dangers all over the world that can, hurt you if you're not careful and you're not respectful of the power of whatever that inanimate object is. Absolutely. So, yeah. So definitely, guys, be careful, make sure you drink all your Bud Light and go buy more firearms. Okay. So thanks so much for hanging out with us today. What's that?
Buy more ammo.
Buy more ammo. Yeah. 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 Give up the Bud Light, buy more ammo. Yeah. So thanks so much for hanging out with us today. I'm Jay, and that's Joe, and this has been Joe and Jay Outspoken. If you had fun or learned anything, do us a favor, like, subscribe, and comment, and share. Those things really help us out and fight the algorithm that may not always agree with the topics we cover, probably like the one today. And like most of the topics we cover on the channel, today's topic was suggested by you. So if there's a topic you would like to see us cover in the future, please go to joeandjayproductions.com/ideas. And a very special thanks to our Patreons. You make this whole thing possible. Without your amazing support, there would be no Outspoken. If you would like to help out, it can be as small as liking, subscribing, and commenting, or you can also grab merch from the Outspoken store, or for only $5 a month, become one of our Patreon members. Thanks again, everyone, for tuning in. Take care of one another.
Do better, be better.
And as always, God bless America.